highly intuitive when they're pregnant, and, you know, they know what's right for their body. And yeah, I often tell the dads when I'm doulaing that really it's just your job to look after the mother, and then she can mother.
Yep.
And yes, the dad needs to be involved with the baby and will want to, of course, but really if we could just get his attention onto her, then she's being cared for, and so her cup's getting filled up, and then she can look after that baby, because I don't think a lot of women's cups are getting filled up. There's a little bit of an attitude of, we've had the baby, get on with it, I can't breastfeed, so
you do everything.
Yeah, you just kind of deal with it, and oh yeah, I get she's going to be a bit emotional, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of superficial.
Yep.
So
yep,
yeah,
for sure. And going back to that education that we have as kids, like, kids are so curious and open, and then if we shut them down, we're like, oh, we're not going to give this much information. There's a culture of shame and uneducation about that, and then that just proceeds to the next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the best ways of educating your child is to have them present at the birth of their sibling. It just creates a wonderful, wonderful family bond. I had a situation a couple of years ago where the mum was trying to decide whether or not she was going to have a hospital birth, and she was deciding whether or not she would have her 3-year-old daughter there. She was a bright little girl. Will I, won't I? She still hadn't decided. Anyway, the day of the birth came, and she called me. I went around there in the morning, and I'd been around to visit the day before. Her mother from Queensland had come down, and I showed a DVD to her mother, the 3 generations and the little girl, of a baby being born. So it was perfect. It was fresh in the little girl's mind. And then when I arrived there, well, this ended up being an accidental home birth, even though the woman was booked in to go to Frankston Hospital. The grandmother got out of bed with the little girl and came out into the lounge room. I think it was probably about 5 minutes before the baby was born. So the little girl got to see her brother being born. It was beautiful. The mother couldn't have been happier.
Oh, beautiful. And I personally found having my other children present at the birth made me feel a lot stronger as well in myself. So yeah, there's something special about having your children there. I think mothers are, the main concern about having their child there is the child's going to interrupt them and they're not going to get an undisturbed birth. But you'll be amazed at how in tune children are when it comes to birth. They switch. These guys run on instinct. These guys aren't pre-programmed. They don't have the fear. Like you said, they're curious. They follow their instincts. And so Brock was 3.5.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was going to have Marley, and he was a real mummy's boy and wanted me to do everything for him. No one else could do it. He's still a little bit like that. But yeah, I was, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, what if he gets really upset when I'm in the middle of, labour and I have to go and get him a drink? But, I just kind of went, look, let's just go with it. The baby will know when to be born and, whatever. He was the best behaved child there. Even my husband said if I had to pick just one of the children, I'd choose Brock. He was amazing. So, yeah, that instinct really shone through with him.
Yeah.
He spent most of his time playing with his little toy train just at the bottom of the
pool.
The pool.
Yeah, he just sat there and I think he knew that I was in a sort of
Mum's
altered
busy.
state.
Yeah.
And
Mum's
he
busy.
just really calmly waited.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So going back to the sex education, I just want to say for anyone listening, I did do a podcast last week on sex education for kids. So if you're interested in learning more about that, then that resource is there to go onto. And in terms of, you mentioned having siblings present at the birth. So what other sort of things, environmental things, are ideal for birthing in?
Gosh, I guess this depends on the woman and her lifestyle, because some are going to be a lot more practical and some are going to be a lot more spiritual. So you can decorate your space however you like. I know a girl I did my doula training with, she said she's highly organised, nice way to put it. And she had about 20 birth stations set up around her house. And she said, when the time came, I just locked myself in the toilet. I wanted to be alone.
She didn't want any of them.
So I thought that's such a great example of, you know, and she ended up having her baby out in the spa, out in the back, and yeah, but she didn't really use any of those birth stations. But I guess the comfort of knowing that it's there. So, you know, if you're having a hospital birth, I'd have a little bag packed of what you can look at that's going to trigger some really happy memories for you. So that could be pictures of family or your dog or, you know, many things. What else would you suggest, Sandy?
Take your favourite blanket in.
Yeah.
A pillow
Comforts.
that you're comfortable with at home. Familiar things from home. It's nice to have a few affirmations. I always think a few crystals and a few herbs are quite nice to have at the birth as well.
They're in the doula bags.
The aromatherapy, of course.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, what else? Dim lighting.
And parents receiving the baby. Is that parents receiving the baby?
Parents receiving
Huge
the baby, if that's what they wish to do. Sometimes the mother wishes to receive the baby herself. Sometimes it's the partner who wishes to receive the baby.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it depends on what position mum's in on the day as well, and that's something to put on the birth plan. I'm a huge advocate of parents receiving their own baby. It's not actually something that we're told as an option. We're actually grown up with the phrase of, you know, midwives are baby catchers.
Yeah.
And that really drives me nuts. Sorry, midwives, but I think, you know, as a woman, if you stand up and you just let your arms hang down, look at how long they are. They're perfectly designed to receive your own baby. So nature has designed us in this way. And yeah, obviously if a woman's not in a position to receive her own baby, maybe she's on all fours and doesn't want to move and stuff, well then and maybe dad's up there with mum and, you know, he's not going to move, you would instinctively, as a midwife or a doula or whoever's there, would help that baby not just drop on the ground and pass that straight up to mum. So, you know, situation specific, but yeah, it should be known that it's an option.
Just speaking about babies dropping on the ground. In actual fact, I've read that that's what Aboriginal women have done. Not let them drop on the ground exactly, but they've squatted to give birth, but prior to giving birth they've dug a hole in the ground, probably filled it with leaves and grass and that sort of thing. They're there birthing perhaps on their own, and the baby just slips out and goes into and the baby's earthed, grounded straight away. Yeah. So,
water birth, grounding birth.
Interesting.
That's another beautiful way. I mean, for me, there's no way I want to hold my baby straight away. So that's my instinct. But yeah, you're right. You do see some mothers that are happy just to kind of let them float in the water, and they don't feel that need to hold the baby straight away.
Yeah. And another thing I've heard is that that way the mothers can actually look at the baby and count the fingers and toes and make sure all the bits and pieces are in the right place.
Yeah.
To observe the baby first and then bring the baby up on your chest. Yeah.
And I guess that's another thing we talk about, dim lighting, and that's one way to birth. But then there's women that love birthing down at the river. There's some beautiful YouTube clips on there of a doula free birthing down at the river outside in broad daylight, and, you know, listen to the running water. And
what about the conscious birth movement in Russia and the beautiful DVDs that they put out? Now, what are they called?
Not sure.
Russian water birth. And what was it?
I think so.
Birth into Being. That's one of them. I've forgotten the second one. But anyway, they're beautiful DVDs, and I recommend them to anybody to see. A long time ago in Russia, well, you know, like we had our hippie movement in the West here probably in the 70s, so I think it was about 10 years later before it went over to Russia. And over there, women were birthing, not in hospitals, but they were in birthing houses. And a lot of women were dying, and babies were dying. And people were not happy about this. So the younger revolution came through, and they decided that they'd take themselves away from the cities, and they went to the Black Sea on the coastline, and they set up a big campsite. It was called the birth camp, and women were giving birth in the water, in the shallow waters of the Black Sea, with people supporting them, their friends, their partners, with the dolphins in the background. Oh my gosh, you've got to see the DVD. It is absolutely beautiful. And it just shows natural childbirth and women out in nature enjoying themselves. Unfortunately, that birth camp no longer exists. It's closed down. But it did run for quite a few years, I think, maybe 10 years or so.
Did the death rate go down?
Absolutely, yes. Well, things have changed. I don't think the birthing houses exist in Russia anymore. I think they've probably got hospitals pretty much like we do, unfortunately.
Just because earlier on, I think it was at the start of the podcast, Sandy, you mentioned how when you're birthing, you go into that reptilian brain, and that's where, you just do normal things like eating, breathing, like digestion, stuff you don't have to think about.
The basic.
Yeah, so I think that really, everything's sort of tied in really well. So that's the natural state you need to be in, like undisturbed in that.
That's right.
That state. And I was just curious, you've mentioned conscious birth a few times. So are you able to tell us a little bit more about what conscious birth is for us?
Oh, I just want to go back before conscious birth. There's conscious conception.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah. And then there's conscious birth.
Yep.
And then there's conscious parenting.
I like that.
Yep, 100%. And look, I think a nice way to sum up conscious birth is a mother who is fully present with herself and her body through the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a really good summary thing.
Yeah, it's basically a higher awareness of the passage of right, which is an initiation into motherhood. Because when we're birthing a baby, we're also birthing a mother, and it doesn't matter if it's her first, second, third, 10th, 12th baby. Every baby's different. Every journey is going to be different through that parenthood. So every time you're going through the rite of passage into, a new journey of motherhood. So, it's a more sensitive approach to the needs of yourself and your baby. It's another thing. Birth, yes, it is all about the mother, but it should be more baby focused, because we talk a lot about what the mother needs and what the mother wants, but we don't really talk so much about what the baby needs and how the mother's choices are going to affect that baby. Yeah, so how's the baby going to feel if the mother decides to get induced? Because those feelings that we talked about that the mother's getting that are a lot stronger and harder and unnatural, that baby's going to be feeling that too. That baby's not going to be feeling a nice flow of almost like a little massage and caressing of coming down. It's probably going to get its ass kicked a little bit more and, come on, it's time to get out of there. So what's that creating for the baby? The baby's very much part of the birth. And I do believe that a baby can hold their own fear and stall labour as well. Yeah, so I guess conscious birth, as I said, it's understanding the two beings that are at play.
Yep.
Yes, and I think the conscious birth also, it's holistic.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's physical, mental and spiritual. So definitely holistic. It covers all aspects.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's totally missing in our Western world, in our hospitals and the way our mums are cared for. The spiritual side is totally neglected. And, well, we have to realise that giving birth is a spiritual experience.
It is. And actually I'd like to add to something I was taught through my training that I hadn't thought of. They said the very first intervention that a woman has is the pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And if you ask women, why did you take that pregnancy test? Pretty much their instinct tells them that they were probably pregnant.
Yeah.
So, I guess we've got to bring them back to that moment of saying, why did...
Trust.
Yeah. Trust. Your
Trust
body was
your
giving you signs. They
instinct.
say, oh, my boobs were sore, or, we have signs of things, So again, nature and our body, everything's always talking to us, so it's just getting in that flow and trusting ourselves.
Yeah. So interesting that a lot of women have that intuition, but they find it so hard to trust it that they need to go and get a test to